Folks, welcome back. We're going to talk about mind over matter today. I know that sounds trite, but we're going to talk about mastering mindfulness for weight loss through brain function. When you're hungry, it's not your stomach that's hungry, it's your brain. When you're sad, it's your brain. We have a broken heart, it's your brain. And so that's why we have to look at what can we do to get the brain better. Now, your brain has these things called receptors. And let's talk about leptin. Leptin is a hormone that's released in your stomach when you eat food. You eat food, leptin is released, it goes into your blood system, goes into hypothalamus and a receptor. And the hypothalamus says, I have enough nutrition, I'm full. What did I say? I don't have enough food, I have enough nutrition. So when you're hungry, you're not hungry for food, you're hungry for nutrition. And that's a key I want you to understand. I could eat, I don't know, a pound, I'm making something up, of ice cream. I can eat a quarter pound of nutrients. I'll have more satisfaction with the nutrients than I would with the ice cream. Now, ice cream makes you feel good. It's a sugar. It releases the dopamine in your brain and the nucleus accumbens, and you get high from it. But I want to have that satisfaction. And so that's what we have to look at is the brain receptors. What brain receptors we're going to stimulate? We're going to stimulate the ones that give us pleasure. We're going to stimulate the ones that say, okay, I'm happy and I feel good. Serotonin versus dopamine. Serotonin makes you happy. Dopamine gives you pleasure. There's a difference there. So I want you to feel happy, and comfortable, and satisfied. So your body has to give time to heal. It's not going to happen one day. It's not going to say, okay, well, I ate a carrot yesterday. Why haven't I lost weight? We all have thought that, I'm sure, at some point in our lives. It's going to take a little time. It's like a wound. It has to heal. So give it time. Your brain will heal. Now, sometimes if you're overworked and you're exhausted, you might have to switch over and take a nap. Because if you're really tired, you might need a little nap. We've done studies, and whoever did them, and they've discovered things called blue zones in the world. Blue zones are where people live the longest and are the happiest with the least amount of disease. And the blue zones are several places around the world. There's a place, I think it was in Italy. There's a place in Japan, Okinawa, Japan. There's a place in Russia, and Loma Linda, California. So you got all these remote places all over the world, and Loma Linda, California. What are some of the things that they all have in common? It's not geography. It's not religion. It's not culture. They all eat mostly a plant-based diet, and they all take time to rest. For example, taking naps. The people that live the longest usually take naps. And I fought this for the longest time because if I was napping, I wasn't working. I wasn't doing things. And then when I finally got into this whole nap concept, I realized, oh my gosh, I can get so much more done with a 10-minute nap. I remember when I was first going into school, way back when, into graduate school, there was a chiropractor in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. Can't remember his name. Bob something. Bob Tarantino, maybe? Anyway, not important. And I went to visit him. And he had this one clinic, and he was just packed with patients, just lining up. Boom, boom, boom. Adjustment, adjustment, adjustment. And I watched him, and I said, this is amazing. And I said, can I take you out to lunch? And he said, no. I said, why? He says, I nap at lunch. I need my 10-minute nap. And I was 17, 18-year-old kid going, what? That's stupid. Now I get it. So taking downtime allows you to have uptime. So it's really important to give your body a break. Now, you may need to confront some of your emotions that you didn't know you had when it comes to food. And you may have bad emotions. Maybe somebody was mean to you and then took you out for ice cream. And then you felt, okay, they're not so mad at me anymore. But you relate ice cream to that moment of pleasure, but not linking it back a little further. Brain mess you up, man. It's crazy stuff. I remember talking a while ago to a bunch of men, and we said, who do you date in your family? And I didn't get it at first. And one guy was a therapist, and he says, no, you date a certain type of person based on a relationship you had with someone in your family. And I didn't get it at first. And it could be your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your uncle. And so some people get into abusive relationships because that abusive relationship as a child. Some people get into healthy relationship that had a healthy relationship as a child. Some people only go out with people who pick on them, who are abusive, because their sister was abusive to them. So you go back to what you feel comfortable with, even though it's not good for you. I mean, there are people that go into relationships where there's a physical abuse. Why? Because that physical abuse as a child. So that's a whole nother lecture in itself. But you have that relationship with food. You go back till you find what's comfortable. If I went back to what I was comfortable with, I would be eating sauerbraten and kartoffelglurs and beef goulash and egg noodles and cake every day. because that's how my mother fed me. My whole family was overweight. I was overweight. And so that's very comforting to me, but it took me a lot of work to say, you know what? Why do I like ice cream so much? It's not the ice cream. It's the fact that blank, whatever. Uncle Tommy took me out for ice cream, but Uncle Tommy was mean to me or whatever it is. So think about your relationship with food because those emotions can come up and you may have to face it. So just prepare yourself because, again, I don't want to get you skinny. I want to get you well. So it's okay. It's exactly what should be happening, what you're experiencing right now. So it's really kind of cool. Now, some of you may have just heard me talk for 5 minutes and go, I have no idea what he's talking about. Awesome. That's exciting. Great. Ignore this whole part of the tape. But if you're having that, I want you to start realizing why you keep going back to the cigarettes or the alcohol or the ice cream or the bad relationship. You got to fix the brain. And that's what we're working on now. So if you're eating heavy foods, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, it takes a lot of energy to digest those foods. Romance is the number one consumer of energy, but we don't have romance all day, every day. Number two is digestion. And so digestion takes up a lot of energy. So if you're eating a steak sandwich on white bread with cheese, you're going to go exhausted. A good example is this. For lunch, I'm sure you've done this already. For lunch, you can have pizza. And as soon as lunch is over, you're going to want to take a nap. I'm just exhausted. Or you can have a salad and you feel great. Now, the pizza was more momentarily satisfying. I'm not going to lie to you. I'd rather have a pizza than a salad if I had to choose about pleasure level. But I know that if I eat pizza, I'm going to fall asleep in the afternoon. An example, there used to be a Mexican restaurant when I first got in practice many, many decades ago. Mexican restaurant, and lunch was really cheap, like $2.10. And it was a taco and a burrito and an enchilada with cheese and chips. And I was really poor back then. And so I would eat as many chips as I possibly could. And inevitably, I'd go back to my office and my head would be bobbing. I mean, I really couldn't keep my head up. I remember doing an intake on a patient one day, and a patient had their head down, and I fell asleep real quick for a second. So then I started thinking, I didn't know about nutrition like I do now. And I thought, wait a minute, every time I go to Los Reyes, Mexican restaurant, I would fall asleep. Stop going to Los Reyes. So think about what you're eating and then think about how you're feeling. And you'll see some amazing changes in your life. It's a lot of energy to digest food. So eating foods that are easier to digest are going to give you a lot more energy. You're going to get a lot more done. You're going to feel a lot better. All right. So coming up, we're going to talk about the intricate pathway of detoxification. What goes on as you cut out these bad foods and start putting the good foods in. So stay tuned.